Welcome everybody to today's video where we are going to talk about the TurboTouch 360 made by Triax. This was an aftermarket controller for your Sega Genesis system, come out in around the early 90s, say 1993 or so, and it was a pretty standard feature-wise aftermarket controller. You had independent turbo for your buttons. The key note, however, is the D-pad. This was meant to be an improvement on your standard D-pad. See, the original Sega Genesis had your cardinal 8 directions, but you pressed in each direction. This was true of all D-pads at the time. And the TurboTouch 360 had what they considered a technology improvement. It was a capacitance that would sense where your thumb was resting on the directions. This was actually endorsed by an orthopedic surgeon back in the 90s to prevent blisters and thumb strain, because us original gamers back then, we just literally break these controllers. Modern gamers with your analog sticks, you're a lot more sensitive in your shooters. Now this caused some pretty harsh criticism, this D-pad, from people who didn't like that you couldn't rest your finger in the direction. For a platformer, if you rested in the right, you would just continue running to the right. Well, again, I think you modern gamers wouldn't have any issue with this. You know, growing up with an analog stick, that's the case anyway. It has a little lip that you could rest your thumb on. I never really had too much issue with it. I will say that because of this, it's not the best game for all, or best controller for all games. I like it for certain simulators, certain shooters where, you know, that smooth transition is what I'm looking for as I'm flying around the screen or driving around the screen, whatever the case may be. It was a pretty durable controller. That's certainly not the case with a lot of aftermarket controllers. There's a lot of cheap junk out there. I don't think you would go wrong by getting this as a second or third Genesis controller. That was really what it was intended to be. You know, everybody come with at least one with their system, and this was just the replacement, you know, and gave you that turbo. But you will find it is true that's just not the right controller for every application. It also had a 6-foot cord. Remember, we were all sitting in front of 24-inch televisions. This plug, interesting to note, the Genesis controllers can be used for some Commodore and Atari applications. There were also versions of the controller for the original NES and the Super Nintendo. There's an idea of the gaming box it would come in. And I also just wanted to give a shout out to the King 1337 for loaning us his controller to review today. And you can check out his YouTube channel at The Strange King. So thanks everyone, and till next time.